Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special Hurricane Erin edition, a rare Tuesday edition of the Carolina Weather Group. I'm Jared Smith in Charleston, South Carolina, with Scotty Powell out in Myrtle Beach and Sam Walker out on the Outer Banks, which is kind of gonna get the brunt of it here in the Carolinas. So yeah, let's get right into it, guys. In a couple coastal areas, it's really not been terrible here. Charleston is expecting some coastal flooding, but really more of the impact, I suspect, is going to be up in your neck of the woods, Scotty and Sam.
Yeah, I'll go first because I'm not going to be as impacted as Sam's going to be. But we are expecting to see some pretty high waves up here over the next few days. In fact, I was out just a little bit ago in Surfside Beach, Garden City, and you can already see those waves starting to build. And standing up on the pier, you could actually see some of the rip currents out and about. In fact, from our live cam today at the TV station, you can see some rip currents out in the sea. So our biggest concern here in the Grand Strand will be those built-in waves. We're anywhere between 6 to 9 foot waves possible at the maximum height as we get into Wednesday evening into Thursday as Erin makes its closest approach to the Grand Strand. And as you said, Jared, we're also kind of watching that coastal flooding possibility, especially on Thursday as it kind of matches up with high tide. In fact, the latest spring-made pier guidance is showing around 6.9 to 7.1 mean water level. And that to us is about what you would see on a king tide. So if you live in like Cherry Grove, Little River, down to Garden City, Surfside, those locations, we could see some of the same effects that you would see with the king tide. And then here across Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, the waves will definitely be breaking right where the dunes are. So a little bit higher than what we normally see for your high tide. So that could cause some coastal flooding and even a little bit of beach erosion. But the biggest thing has been the rip currents that's been ongoing. I know today at least 3 here in the Grand Strand. Up yesterday in the Riceville Beach area, 50 to 70 rip current rescues were documented. So that has been a big story here across southeast North Carolina into northeastern North Carolina. And there's rip current risk will stay high through the next few days, especially as Erin makes its close approach to us. But as far as wind and rain, not really expecting much here, but I'm going to toss it up the coast to Sam, where Sam looks like you may see a little bit of that wind and rain along with the coastal effects of the storm.
Yeah, we already are. We started seeing the waves really start to build this morning on Hatteras and Ocracoke Islands, and even on up the northern beaches. I was out in Duck all day today. Did a hit for the Weather Channel at one point, and you could definitely tell. In fact, they went from red to double red as I was out there this morning around 11 o'clock. It's getting bad, and it's only going to get worse. We've already had overwash today. We had a little bit with the morning high tide. It looks like it's going to be the evening high tide is our higher of the two in this, which has its pluses and minuses. It looks like we'll probably be in enough cycle. At least the sun will be up when we get these high tides. But when we get them, if this forecast holds, I've never in the 30 plus years that I've been paying attention to things and 52 years living here on the Outer Banks, I've never seen a surf zone forecast of 20 plus. Never. And this is a unique situation. And that's why the evacuation orders were given out when they were for Hatteras and Ocracoke on Sunday. And as we got ready to go to air tonight, we get an announcement that the 4-wheel drive area of Corolla, which is the Currituck Outer Banks, which is Corova and Swan Beach, evacuation starting at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Now, you're thinking, well, they're going to do this 12 hours before we really start seeing things. Not as many people up there as even Hatteras and Ocracoke, but still a lot of people got to get out of there, and it's a mandatory evacuation for both visitors and residents. That's a very rare occurrence. So everything it looks like out of this system is going to be, it's unprecedented is what it seems like as far as the impacts we're going to see over the next 3, maybe 4 days.
Yeah, and it's very interesting when we look at let's take a look at some of like the forecast, for example. So let's just get over to that real quick, because this is not something that you normally associate with evacuations, right? So here's the latest on Erin. As of 8 o'clock, it was at a 27.3 north, 72.7 west, and so right off the Florida coast now, starting to make that northerly turn. Sorry, fearmongers, not getting crazy for you. Not we're going to have that random turn that some folks on TikTok were talking about. So thank goodness for that. Winds at 105 miles an hour, gusting to 125, moving north-northwest at 10 miles an hour. Pressure's around 959 millibars. And again, these are just points on a map. This doesn't tell the whole story, though. You can see the tropical storm alerts that are out, and we'll dive into those a little bit closer in a minute. But the core of the storm stays well offshore. It stays well off the coast. But as Sam said, that's not really going to help us a lot. Here's your tropical storm watches and warnings. Tropical storm warnings up from Jacksonville, Morehead City, up through pretty much the entirety of the Outer Banks, up to about Southern Shores, Kill Devil Hills, and then a tropical storm watch is in effect to the Virginia border and beyond. Storm surge is going to be the main issue. We have a storm surge warning in effect, also primarily around the Outer Banks. And again, that's what 20-foot that's what that 20-foot waves are going to do for you. And again, it is extremely dangerous at the beaches. Rip current risk, high rip current risk, all up and down the southeast coast here. You can see that high risk going well down into Florida, up through Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Jacksonville, all the way through the Outer Banks, well into Virginia. So this is not, this isn't your typical hurricane situation. It's very rare that we go on a stream, a special stream, for a storm that isn't going to have a direct hit. And yet, this is going to be a very impactful storm for coastal locations. Sam, in your situation out on the Outer Banks, like you said, 20-foot wave forecast. That's impressive. This is a large storm. This is a very large storm with a large wind field. And it's going to move a lot of water. And that's exactly what we're thinking is going to happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting that during the National Weather Service Newport briefing that the conference call we had this afternoon, and in the questions period, I wish they would run those. I haven't really pushed Eric Hayden there about leave the questions in too. Part of that's because I like being able to pull the audio post when he puts them on YouTube. It makes my job a lot easier. But one of the questions coming up was, or one of the things that was talked about, and I can't remember who it was. He had one of his colleagues there at the Newport office who's a water specialist, if you want. I'm looking at my, the notes that we took. The swell energy that we're looking at, the swell energy units today and in the morning are in the range of 1,000 to 2,000. And I don't know, Jared, if you want to pull up what's happened with that 1,000 to 2,000 range in Buxton. This afternoon with high tide starting 3 hours. Normally when we talk about high tide, overwash events and high tide, we talk 1 to 2 hours before and after. There's a little 4-hour window, 2-hour window. We're already in a 3-hour on each side. We had 6 hours of overwash situation already today before, what is it? Tuesday afternoon's high tide. High tide was at 5, 2 o'clock. We already had water coming over through what's called the motels in Buxton. And it was covering part of Highway 12. It was coming over at Sandy Bay. That's where in 2003 an inlet was cut by Hurricane Isabel. And it was coming over on the north end of Ocracoke Island. The 3 spots we've talked about so much here in the run-up to this thing.
That's what this video restarted here.
That's all right. If you want.
Yeah, so there you go. There's Overwash and Hatteras.
Yeah, that's Buxton. Looking south, the lighthouse in the background with no paint on it. It's brick right now, which is crazy to see, and with scaffolding all around it as they were completely renovating the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. The stripes are not there right now. It looks like the lighthouse that I can see out my backyard, which is Corolla. Anyway, 1,000 to 2,000 wave energy units. Wednesday evening, it ramps up to 4,000 to 6,000. By Thursday evening, they're looking possibly at swell energy units of 25,000. That's, you're talking about a swell unprecedented that we're going to see that powerful a swell coming into the surf zone from the Chesapeake Bay, the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay, down to Scotty, almost to you, really, if you think about how much swell is going to be coming at us. And because the Outer Banks is the farthest eastern point of North Carolina and the farthest eastern point in the Mid-Atlantic, it all focuses right on us. So we're looking at a pretty, I don't want to say, but this is we're looking at a situation, an Irene, an Isabel, a Dorian. We're going to be talking about Erin, I have a feeling, for decades to come as one of these, radical changes to the Outer Banks events. If this forecast holds, and right now it looks like this forecast is going to hold.
That is remarkable.
Yeah. And, it's the other thing is we normally would call these fish storms, because we're not really going to see a lot of impacts. We're going to see a little bit of rain, a little bit of wind. We haven't even focused. It's funny that the Newport briefing doesn't even have a rainfall in it because we're not really focused on it. The Wakefield one had it like a quarter inch at the most. We got more rain out of a thunderstorm that fell today with this little disturbance that's been kind of tied up over us for a couple of weeks, it feels like, with this northeast blow. This is all a surf event. There's one other aspect of the weather side of this that we haven't really talked about. There's a lot of questions about it. What's going to happen on the sound side? Because if we're going to get tropical storm sustained winds for a pretty decent 12 to 24 hour period, that could mean some sound side issues in Ocracoke. And looked at one of the tide gauge prediction for Hatteras Village, where the ferry docks are, was running into the moderate flood stage. That's the prediction for Thursday. So there's another aspect of this. Not only are we looking at this ocean side situation, we're probably looking at some sound side issues for Hatteras Village and Ocracoke Village because of the northeast wind, the north wind that we're going to get as Erin makes its closest approach. So for the most part, this again, unprecedented because of the surf side of things, but not unprecedented for maybe some other angles, and other aspects of what this storm's going to do.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, guys. It's a tough one to message because yes, it's a hurricane that's going to cause serious problems, but it's also very much splitting the uprights between us and Bermuda. We're used to high surf, we're used to those things, we're used to some coastal flooding from these from time to time, but this is going to be an extreme event because again, it's a very large storm. It covers hundreds and hundreds of miles, and that wind field it continues to expand. So. I mean, it's going to be quite an event. It certainly seems that way. And
a lengthy one, too, because, what we're used to out here when you start getting storms, I say we're used to, and yeah, we're used to it. We think 3-4 day or maybe 5-day events with nor'easters because nor'easters do a whole different mind game. They're a whole different ball game in the winter, in the fall, in the spring. Because they're slow moving but they take the similar path as to what Erin is doing, maybe a little closer sometimes. Erin even with this slow forward speed, it's not so much this forward speed of the storm. It's just the fact that it was such a powerful storm as it got to where it is now. And as it was passing Puerto Rico. So the waves that we're getting right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, the waves we're getting now, some of those were created when it was still down around Puerto Rico, right? I mean, is that correct, or maybe am I good? Is that
probably not out of the probably not out of whack
because
at all.
of this because of the powerful how fast this when we talked about rapid intensification, has anybody ever seen how many times have we seen this happen over the last decade? 7 hours. 7 hours to go from 75 to 160. I mean, if that's not the definition of rapid intensification, I don't know what is. I mean, usually we see that in the Gulf, right? We don't see that out in the tropical Atlantic. But the waves that we're getting now are a day, 2, maybe 3 days old. These weren't produced just now. I mean, they've taken a while to get here, and that's one of the aspects of this is going to hang around for a while. We're going to see this east swell southeast swell, east swell, right on into the end of the week, and then northeast swell because Erin's going to be headed out into the North Atlantic. So the weekend. So this is a week-long event. It looks like we're going to be dealing with. So then we get into the whole high tide cycles. How many high tide cycles? Twice a day is high tide. So 2, 4, 6, 8. We could be looking at 10 high tide cycles. We just hit perigee with the moon on Friday. We hit new moon this Saturday. We're lucky this wasn't the first week of October, guys. King tide.
Mm-hmm.
We're lucky it wasn't the second week of September, which is an elevated tide. It's not a king tide.
Mm-hmm.
We got lucky, but we're still going to be getting pounded by it, and we're still seeing that this one. Like I said, this one's going in the record books, guys. This is going to be one that we're going to be talking about for a long time out here.
Yeah, and I have to imagine beach erosion is a concern for y'all. Scotty, it is here. I am very sure it is in Myrtle. I mean, this could really rework some things, it feels like. We could see some new paths cut, possibly.
Yeah, there's a lot of areas here in the Great Strand that even with Chantal, we saw some beach erosion and stuff, and with this storm, there's some areas of Surfside Beach that doesn't have a lot of beach to begin with, and then you get those high tide cycles mixed in with the maximum waves moving in at the same time, and so yeah, it is definitely a concern with beach erosion, and there's a lot of projects going on right now across the Grand Strand with stormwater and things like that. So it's not the best time to have one of these systems kind of roll through the area, but we can't control Mother Nature. But it is going to be interesting to see the lasting, when Erin does move out of the area, the lasting impacts from what it is. And I think Sam, with you guys up in the Outer Banks, I mean, we know how vulnerable Highway 12 is to begin with, and it just seems like it's just going to be a mess up there for many, many days to come. And though a lot of vacation season is starting to trickle to an end, you still have a lot of visitors in town up in the Outer Banks, same as we do down here in Myrtle Beach, and I'm sure you as well in Charleston, Jared. A lot of school systems up north and northeast, they don't go back till after Labor Day, so you got some folks who are trying to get that last vacation in before we kind of settle into the school season and fall season. And so it is going to make some lasting impacts out there. And when we heard about the evacuation yesterday, I saw some posts out there, folks who are just coming out for the Outer Banks for their week-long vacation had to pack back up and head back out, as soon as they got there. So unfortunately, we're hoping that the damage won't be too bad up there, and we can escape that. But right now, with all indications, looks like we could see, like you said, some serious impacts without actual landfall there in the Outer Banks.
Yeah, and we're a week-long vacation destination. Now we used to be all, everybody went Saturday to Saturday. Now it's a Sunday, Friday, Saturday. It's all scattered around to help with the traffic. Yeah, there were literally people who got to Ocracoke, got off the ferry, got to their house, and 8:15, Hyde County put out their evacuation order. I mean, these people had punched the code in the door to get in the house, and we're like, well, okay, turn around, guys, we're going home. Hopefully, many of these people got vacation insurance. We are hearing all those stories, and we'll hear these stories about vacation insurance, I guarantee you. Because if a mandatory evacuation is ordered and you've purchased vacation insurance, you're covered, or you're supposed to be. There have been issues with some of these insurance companies that underwrite these policies. But for the most part, we're not hearing that yet. For the most part, we're hearing, yep, they're gonna honor it, and they'll get some of their money back, not all of it. You mentioned one thing about vacation season, and Northern Virginia went back to school this week. A lot of Northern Virginia went back. I noticed a big difference in our traffic on Saturday and Sunday coming in. So are we at full capacity? No. And that's probably one of the reasons the evacuation has gone so orderly as it has. It was very easy on Monday. There was no traffic issues coming off Hatteras Island on Monday. Today, not really, shouldn't be with this evacuation order. It goes into effect tomorrow. We're not peak season July 4th like we were with Hurricane Arthur a couple of years ago, 2020, with Arthur, when we had to clear out everybody, and that was chaotic. because that was a full-on week on top of the pandemic situation, stacked on that. So it's still going to be an economic hit, and it could carry over into next week, depending on what happens to Highway 12 for Hatteras and Ocracoke. And Hatteras and Ocracoke are a little different animal because they are 100% tourism driven. And we all are pretty much, but this is going to be a big hurt on them. And hopefully it doesn't impact shoulder season. We could like to call it local summer because the water's still warm, the weather's still warm after Labor Day, and we get the beach back a little bit for ourselves. So hopefully that's, we're going to luck out there. It just doesn't feel like it. And, there's two other places we haven't talked about in this. And one is here. One is between me and you, Scotty. I'll start with up here, and we've got some areas on the northern beaches of the Outer Banks, north of Oregon Inlet, South Nags Head. There's some weak spots there that we're going to see some stuff. We've got, that we could see some overwash issues there. There's some other areas in Nags Head that are also a little weak. Kitty Hawk as well. Not a lot of dune there. They've done a great job. There's a couple of private groups up here that have done great job of planting beach grass and laying out Christmas trees to collect sand and help rebuild the dunes. I've gone out there, I've hauled Christmas trees in the back of my pickup out on the beach to help them out, which is Better Beaches OBX. Donnie King, who runs a restaurant up here, and Lynn Schmitz, who lives in Southern Shores, going out there planting beach grass. So in Southern Shores, they've done a great job of getting those dunes, but those dunes can only hold so much, especially if we're going to get 4, 5, 6 tide cycles that are going to be pretty severe. The other place I wanted to mention was, we haven't talked about this, and Eric at the National Weather Service in Newport mentioned it a lot today. North Topsail Beach is going to take a beating with this because of the angle that they are at and with the direction of the swell with this southeast and then east-southeast swell. North Topsail is going to really take a hammering as well out of this. I think, the Crystal Coast should come out okay. Wouldn't be surprised Cape Lookout, maybe some things happen down in the national seashore there, which is not inhabited, is inhabitable. Or it's inhabitable. The mosquitoes would argue with that, but is not, is uninhabited. But sometimes you'll see new inlets blown out by things like this. I will say, I've had a lot of people ask me that, do we need to be worried about inlets? No, and I'll tell you why. One thing that we have to have is that landfalling hurricane that the center passes to the west of the sounds or over the Pamlico Sound and get into the northeast quadrant. Because it's not so much what the ocean does to create inlets, it's what the sound does. Because the pressure that builds up from the water in the sounds pushes up against, and then you get the erosion effect from the ocean. That's what creates these inlets. It's like you pop a cork, and that's exactly what they do. So when we saw new inlet form, the inlet that formed in Hurricane Irene in 2011, where this bridge that now just goes over sand on Pea Island, was the last time we had one. And as I mentioned earlier, was 2003 with Isabel. You had a landfalling hurricane, landfall, in the Cape Lookout area. The center of circulation stays just to the west of the Outer Banks. We stay in the bad side, the northeast quadrant eye wall, blows all the water from one side of the sound to the other, and then it finds a weak spot and keeps on going to the ocean. Shouldn't see that happen with this. I mean, again, we're in unprecedented times, it looks like, with this storm. But I think those areas that I just mentioned, we haven't gotten a lot of talk nationally or outside of us here, locally covering things. And then, again, North Topsail Beach down on the central coast of North Carolina. That's another weak place that's going to have a lot of problems out of this.
Yeah, I agree with North Topsail. I've been there several times, and that beach is already there's not much beach left in North Topsail just from all the previous storms. And so I agree with you. North Topsail will be another spot to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we'll do here in a second, I'm going to bring up the model, bring up the weather models to show you kind of the wind field and kind of what that could look like here as we get in the next few minutes. But I wanted to take a quick second to shout out our brand partner, Queensboro. So Queensboro is great. That's how, if you like my shirt, That's where we got it from. We partnered with Queensboro because when you're building your brand, every detail matters, and that includes what you wear. Queensboro Shirt Company makes it really easy. With easy ordering and free logo setup, no hidden fees, nothing like that. It's been phenomenal for us. For more than 40 years, they've helped people and businesses share who they are with the world with their quality embroidery and print. It's all about honest pricing, small business friendly, and genuine care. And they've got a no returns necessary guarantee. So that means you can try them totally risk free. So go to queensboro.com to see for yourself why they're top rated custom logo apparel company on the internet, and hit that QR code above for some Carolina Weather Group merch. This is comfy, guys. This feels real nice. I got it earlier this week from James, and it breathes very nicely, which is really awesome in the summer. So again, check out our merch there. But again, getting back to tracking Erin here at the Carolina Weather Group, we are here tonight on a Tuesday, a little bit rare to do that. I've got Scotty Powell and Sam Walker with me. Scotty's up in Myrtle and Sam is up in the Outer Banks, and it's going to be a busy It's going to be a busy week plus as Erin makes the move across. So what I wanted to do was kind of bring up our weather models here a little bit, and I wanted to show you kind of what the wind field could look like. This isn't saying it's going to look like this. It could look like this. So we'll go ahead and pull that up. And so here's your models here. And this is the 18Z GFS. This is at 1800. And this is the wind speed. This isn't the rain. The rain is going to stay pretty much offshore. We're not really going to deal with much of the rain at all. Rain is not a factor with this one. It purely is the water that this thing is moving with its very large wind field. And so we'll move this forward in time. And you can see again that stays. This is at a little bit after it's 11 o'clock on Wednesday or Tuesday night, Wednesday. And you can see it's pretty far out. That's a decent distance, but you can see even some of that, some of these, stronger winds that are approaching tropical storm force graze the Outer Banks. So there's your graze right there. Northerly winds coming in, just smashing everything, beach wise anyway. It's going to be, it's going to be very windy. We have tropical storm warning out there, and then it pulls away. But that wind, that north wind is going to continue to really be impactful even over the next few days after Erin departs. There's going to be a front that'll be moving down and low pressure developing. There you have a little bit of a high pressure developing, a little bit of a wedge too, and so that is going to cause, issues for quite a bit of time. So again, this is something that's a little bit, it's a little harrowing if. It's going to be a very interesting situation. So again, taking a peek at the forecast track for Erin here, 8 o'clock advisory, 8 p.m. advisory has it 105 mile an hour sustained winds with max gust to 125. Moving northwest at 10, it did make the turn at least, but doesn't really matter for what we're talking about here. The pressure is 959 millibars or 28.32 inches of mercury. That's what your altimeter setting is. And that's a pretty deep and large circulation. And again, recapping some of the watches and warnings that are out. We have a tropical storm warning roughly from about Jacksonville, North Carolina up to Kill Devil Hills.
Goes up to Duck.
Goes up to Duck. Thank you.
We can get into that if we want to in a little bit. The whole thing.
Oh yeah, we will. No, yeah, we can. So it goes up to Duck, and then we have a tropical storm watch that goes well into Virginia after that. Storm surge warning, though, this is going to be the big one here. This is going to be the big concern. Storm surge, really have that thin red outline there along the Outer Banks. That's where we're most concerned about the risk for surge, and then really an issue for all of us in the Carolinas are going to be the risk for high surf and rip currents, very high risk of rip currents over the next several days. Very dangerous to be in the water. Don't get in the water. I think that's the most important thing that we can emphasize to folks. Even if you think you know what you're doing, don't get in the water. we had a conversation here a little while back, is that, you run into a lot of issues with people who are in their 50s thinking that, oh yeah, I can beat out a rip current, but in fact, males in their 50s actually are more likely to die from rip currents. So we don't want folks letting their hubris take over here. This is a very, it's a very dangerous situation. And, we want everybody to be safe. So again, from our end down here in Charleston, real quick, we haven't really touched on too far south, but we are going to be heading into some periods possibly of coastal flooding. So let me get the forecast onto the screen here, if I can get the right window. I have guys, there's so many windows. There's so many things to show. But here is our so here's the total water level forecast for Charleston Harbor, and we did briefly touch coastal flood criteria tonight, earlier this evening. This is on Tuesday around 6 o'clock, hitting about 7.05 feet. And then we are going to get into, we're going to get into really just a couple rounds here of some impressive coastal flooding, in the moderate category, 7.7 feet around 7 o'clock, Wednesday evening. And then Thursday evening, a little bit lower, about 7.5 feet. And then Friday, a little bit lower, getting into the minor stage more, 7.2 feet. So again, coastal flooding during the evening high tides is going to be an issue in the usual trouble spots here, but with no rain on top of it, that at least helps. But beach erosion and surf and rip currents all are going to be the thing here. But again, for those of you, further north into Myrtle and into actually, I have another tab. Let's go through the tide forecasts actually for everywhere. Got this tab. Let me just pull this up a little bit, just so folks can see it a little better, honestly. That is not what I wanted to tap. All right. So here's a look at spring made. So Scotty, 7.3 feet there. And that gets into your minor range, 7.3, 7.1. Then let's get up into,
I was going to say, that's a little bit,
look at duck.
That's a little bit higher than what it was earlier today. So that's very interesting.
Yeah, all of these have increased over the last 24 hours.
Yeah. So, again, we're getting more data in, getting more observational data, and learning more. And here in duck, I mean, we're getting close. We're going to get close to a record.
Wow.
I mean,
what you've got that one right there. Give us a time. And
yeah, so this is roughly around 7 o'clock on Thursday. 7.3 feet
Thursday night
water.
Okay.
Thursday night.
That's just 7. Wow. I mean, that's, yeah, like you said, that's getting close to record height. That would be, I think, I'd have to go back because there've been so many. If it was Irene or if it was Sandy, it might have been Sandy where we set the record at duck. Drop down the one that I'd like to take a look at. You could take a look at Oregon Inlet, but really Hatteras Inlet or Hatteras Harbor. Take a look at that one because that's
let's
that one, and then I think Ocracoke as well. But you see how much that has jumped. That is what we're concerned about with the backside. Well, I say the backside, but with the northerly flow of the sustained tropical storm force winds, and I'm assuming that is Thursday evening as well, right? That's a peak, yeah.
Yes.
So. Yep. Wednesday night is when the winds are supposed to pick up. So, and that is a tide gauge that is in right next to the Coast Guard station and the ferry dock in Hatteras Village. So that is on the Pamlico Sound and is facing almost due north, so a little bit northwest. Northwest is the worst of all the winds for Hatteras Village. And so anytime you get the water level rises there, you've got this creek. It's called Slash Creek that runs straight through the middle of the village, and there's marsh on each side of it. So, not only you got the Pamlico Sound backing up to it, but you got these waterways. Same thing down in Ocracoke Village. You got a lot of these little ditches and creeks that feed off the Pamlico Sound. What's the Ocracoke forecast? Yeah.
So, 3.5.
Okay, it's not 8 feet, thankfully. 8.9 Dorian, but still 3 feet, 3.5 feet. That's a lot of water going in there. That's probably a good foot, maybe about 1.5 feet, 2 feet in the village. So, we've asked about this a couple of times, and now it looks like things are inching towards a sound side flood event. But that's all dependent on, the thing that I see on this is it's all dependent on how close Erin does get. And that's going to dictate how sustained winds. The funny part about it to me about this is we've been in a northeast flow up here when we had the cold air damming situation, when that CAD set up back in the beginning of the month, August 1st, in fact. We went almost a week and a half of a northeast flow. We were a high current risk on the Outer Banks. We were in the 70s and low. I mean, we were barely getting above 80 up here, while the rest of the state was still cooking. And the rest of the beaches were still cooking. We were down it was rather cool for the first week of August. And we've been in that northeast flow pretty much almost 2.5 weeks. But I will say we've seen the water kind of come back. I live on the Currituck Sound, and when the wind blows out of the northeast, it can go out of my dock. I can walk to my dock and not get wet sometimes when it blows out of the northeast. Water's back up here. So it's a little different. We haven't had a lot of wind in the last couple of days. I don't want to open up my doors right now because there's a window right over on the other side of me, and it's covered in bugs right now because of the lights on here in the studio. The fuzzy bills are out. The fuzzy bills or midges are out in full force. We have had a hat because there is no wind right now. The wind has laid out, and when you live here on this marsh and sound, there is no wind. The house is covered. Anywhere there's light sources, you are covered in fuzzy bills. That's always always one of those signs before a tropical system. We get this, when you get a lull in the winds out here, something's coming because the winds die out, the humidity's up. It feels, let's get tropical. It feels tropical out there right now, all over the Outer Banks and even here on the mainland side of the Currituck Sound. So, but it is interesting to see those tidal forecasts. Again, stack up that water already with the tides, the lunar tide, and then we're going to throw 15 to 20 on top of that. Yeah. This I said it before, I'll say it again. We're going into something unprecedented, it looks like.
Yeah, it's quite a thing. And again, I want to quickly go over to the I want to show you all the this is another look at the wind fields here, and I've got the kind of the Hurricane Center forecast wind fields up here, and let me turn everything else off real quick just to show you just how far that is going to scrape. If I zoom in here, so for those of you who are listening on the audio podcast, we have the Hurricane Center. Hurricane Center forecast includes a forecast of the wind fields, and the 34 knot the tropical storm force winds are extending. Let's see. I wish this had a measure tool, because it is, hundreds and hundreds of miles out to the west on the weak side. Much less when you get into the stronger side over the ocean. It's honestly a miracle that Bermuda is. Bermuda is probably going to get some rain from this guy, but it's kind of a miracle that it's not going to be worse for them.
We're staying on the dry side. That's something we should note. We're staying on the dry side. There's a lot of dry air that got sucked into this thing, and a lot of shear that's kind of messed up the whole western half of this thing over the last 12 hours. And we're lucky that that's happened, because otherwise we'd be talking probably about a couple inches of rain possible with some of these bands. I mean, a half inch, we can take a half inch. Like I said, we had a half inch from the little thunderstorms that popped up this afternoon. So, that's one thing I've been trying to tell people out here when they've asked about, hey, what about the rain? This is not a rain event. This is a surf event with a little bit of wind mixed in.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's definitely one of those things that is going to be talked about for quite a while. Let me see, folks, if you want to, if you have any questions for us, let me.
I saw one. Yeah, pull that one that Jay had. There you go.
Yeah. So Jay writes, somebody into learning geography, especially with the Carolinas, what is an inlet? You can make it short if you don't want to take it too much time in this podcast for Hurricane Erin. I appreciate your respect for our time, but we are very happy to go into inlets, Jay. Sam, take it away.
Okay. So an inlet is what it says it is. It is a way for water to come in from the ocean into a land body or another. It connects multiple water bodies. So here we have 3 inlets along the Outer Banks, and I'm not going to get into the whole fight about Emerald Isle trying to claim that they're the southern Outer Banks. No, you're not. The Outer Banks stops at Ocracoke Inlet. All right, so we've had multiple inlets. One thing about barrier islands is, what are barrier islands? Well, they're just giant sandbars that have stabilized that protect the main land bodies. And one of the ways they protect that is they also protect inland estuaries. That's what a sound is. That's what a coastal river is an inland body of water where fresh water and salt water mix, and you get this unique estuary that's a fertile feeding ground and also breeding ground for fish, amongst other things. So the inlets are actually the breaks in the barrier islands between the ocean and the sound. That's how the ocean and sounds connect. So we have 3 right now. And I say right now because we've had, even as recently as, again, 2011 and Hurricane Erin, we had 4. We had a 5th one trying to form. We had, in 2003 in Isabel, we had another inlet form. They are trying to constantly blow these barrier islands out. So you have Oregon Inlet. You'll hear us just say Oregon, but Oregon Inlet, it's the actual thing, which was formed from the hurricane of 1846. You have Hatteras Inlet, and you have Ocracoke Inlet. Now, all 3 of those are the breaks between the Pamlico Sound and the Atlantic Ocean. Oregon Inlet is considered the second most treacherous inlet, ocean inlet on the continent. The first being the Columbia River Inlet in Oregon. But if you talk to the guys who have been stationed at Columbia River Coast Guard Station and Oregon Inlet Coast Guard Station, they prefer going to Columbia River because it's actually easier duty than it is at Oregon Inlet. Oregon Inlet's one of the most treacherous inlets you can try to get in and out of. There have been multiple inlets up and down our coast here. Where I live in Currituck, in the far northeastern corner of the state, there was an inlet there until the late 1700s called Currituck Inlet. We actually had salt water come in. It was just like the Pamlico Sound. There was a port in Currituck, and that inlet and then eventually naturally filled in. Caffey's Inlet a little bit farther south. As you go down the coast, you have a lot more of these inlets. Drum Inlet, then you got Beaufort Inlet, of course, that everybody knows about, and then the different inlets, because there's so many once you get down around Emerald Isle and going all the way down to Calabash. There are multiple of these inlets. So that's what an inlet is. It's an inlet, an inland way or inlet for ocean water to get into these coastal rivers and sounds. There you go.
There you go.
So there's your. Is that geography or is that? It's not bathymetry. I heard Cantori say bathymetry today, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we got to. If you're going to talk about this ocean bottom, you have to say bathymetry." Yeah. So
that's a great word.
You want to go into that, because I can go into that, and that's the reason why the Outer Banks has issues like it does, is bathymetry.
We could do a whole show on bathymetry. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, we got to go to bed at some point. We've got to cover this. A few days of weather. Yeah, we got a busy few days of weather coming up, and especially winds and waves there. So, again, stay tuned to the Carolina Weather Group. What we're going to do after we sign off here is we're going to cut you into our Carolina Weather Net, which will have watches, warnings, frequent updates for weather for all over the place, all over the Carolinas, including the Outer Banks and Charleston and Myrtle and everywhere inland too. We haven't forgotten about you. That is for sure. But Scotty, Sam, before we sign off, before we do that, any final thoughts on what to expect as we get through the week?
Yeah, I would just say if you're out at the beach, stay out of the water, especially from the water. If you're going to get in the water, have the water below your knees, basically. Just go up to about mid thigh, and that's about it. Or don't go out there and venture out into the to the water much. But it's going to be a nasty surf event for a lot of us. I know a lot of surfers are excited. Just be safe out there, and we'll wish all the best to Sam and the folks up there on the Outer Banks, and hopefully not too bad once Aaron pulls away from here.
And I'll go off of what Scotty said about even walking on the beach the next couple of days, not just thinking about getting in. Even walking on the beach is going to be hazardous really starting tomorrow afternoon and into Friday, because we're going to see these powerful waves. And we say powerful, and we talked about it at the top of the show about the swell energy units. Well, the period is the other thing we look at. And we're talking about waves that are going to be 15, 16, 17 seconds between peaks. That is a lot of energy that is built up in that wave. And that means that wave is going to run right on up the dune. It's going to run up the beach and run up the dune. If you're walking on the beach the next couple of days, you need to be mindful of that, because that can easily knock someone down, especially little kids. I mean, there's a tragedy. We had a tragedy where a kid was knocked down walking with his mother. A little 3-year-old kid from New England was walking with his mother, and a wave knocked him down and she lost him. And, tragically, New Hampshire, they were from New Hampshire and were vacationing in Kitty Hawk. It can easily happen. So keep that in mind as you're on any of our beaches the next couple of days. It's not just about wanting to go in the water and go up to your knees, because you might be able to do that in a couple places. These are some powerful ways that can really do some damage, not just to the sand. They can do some damage to you, even just simply walking on the beach. The other thing is we're going to have a lot of debris. No question about it. We know on top of having Highway 12 possibly breached, we're going to see ocean walkovers damaged, maybe some houses damaged, maybe some houses destroyed in Rodanthe and in Buxton. That puts a lot of debris in the water. That's one reason why the National Park Service is already closed in Cape Hatteras National Seashore. They don't want anybody on the beach from Rodanthe to Buxton. You're talking about a 25-mile stretch of beach. They don't want anybody even on the beach, because we've had those houses collapse before, and there's still debris in that sand. Nails, screws, pipes. I don't want to get into the septic tanks are going to get compromised. That's another thing. I mean,
that's a stinky situation.
It is. It definitely is. All these things that are going to happen over the next 24, 48, 72 hours because of these powerful waves. So there's a lot to think about. It's not just about, we talked about the rip currents and not going in and swimming, but even as something as simple as just being on the beach is not going to be safe. Stand at the top of the dune. Don't walk on the dunes, by the way, folks. Walk on the walkways. Don't walk in the dunes. That's how dunes get knocked down and we get blowouts, is when people just walk through the path in the dune. Find somewhere it's got to walk over. Oh yeah, we have all kinds of things we deal with out here on the Outer Banks. We even have state of emergencies that actually define what a surfboard is. Dare County put out their state of emergency, their formal state of emergency, the evacuation declaration, and they had to include in there define what a surfboard is, because people that have surfboards are actually allowed to swim even with double red flags. They're allowed in the ocean, but it specifically says how long the leash is, how long the board is, what it's composed of, one single fin or more, all that stuff. So, we are a very unique place on the planet, I think, and there's some great examples of that.
Yeah, and honestly, a great place. Just every once in a while, this is the price.
But we just call it Tuesday on the Outer Banks.
Exactly. And well, gentlemen, thank you so much for lending your time and your expertise this evening. A lot of really good information, and for people again out there, stay tuned. If you're encountering floodwater, even in your car, which is going to be happening in my neck of the woods here over the next couple evenings, don't drive through it. Not a good idea. That salt water, that's going to really mess up your undercarriage very, very badly. And that is a very expensive thing. Yeah. And be very, very careful with this flood water. And again, to Sam's point, the ocean is angry and is going to be much more powerful than normal. So Folks, yeah, we'll cap off a very unusual hurricane show on that note. But again, Sam, Scotty, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I'm Jared Smith here in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you again for joining us. And what we're going to do now is we're going to get you onto the Carolina Weather Net. That's our 24/7 streaming service, all things Carolina weather. Hope you will hang around and enjoy the show. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back next week with our usually scheduled episode of the Carolina Weather Group. But for now, have a great evening.